Welcome. This is Oz by Drone. I'm Greg, and we've currently got Chad Nowak filling in for John, who's away this week. Hello, Chad. How you doing?
How you doing, Greg? I'm not doing too bad. Can't complain for a Saturday. I'm looking forward to talking about the topics at hand.
Yeah, look, it's been a very big week, and we've got some special guests today, but we've got our news, including an update to our feature from last week about drones getting shot out of the sky. We've got also Lieutenant Colonel Keiren Joyce, who's the head of the Army, Australian Army drone racing team. He's joining us today as our special guest, live from the Avalon Airshow in Victoria. We've got some great clips in FPV Corner and in Explore Australia and lots more. At any time during the show, if anyone has questions for us, share them in chat. I can't promise that we'll see absolutely everything, but we'll try to respond if that's at all possible. And we've also got some people from the Army that are hopefully going to be having a look in the chat as well, so please do interact there.
Yeah, we do look at the comment section, so we try to involve the people in the comment section. If you've got an interesting thing to talk about, a question, we will try and answer it or discuss it and so forth.
Yeah, so what's been happening for you, Chad, just before we get in the news? Anything interesting at the moment?
For me, I've really been just concentrating on the commercial side of drone training. So that's sort of where my bread and butter is at the moment, and sort of dealing with various sort of unusual different size drones and things like that, and dealing with mine companies and surveying. So being busy being out back and so forth, and doing different things like that with big scary drones.
Okay, it's funny that you mentioned that. There was something I was going to talk to you about a long time ago, and it slipped my mind, and it's related to that. So maybe after the show today.
Will do.
Anyway, let's get into it. Let's start with the news. As always, I'd like to give a big thank you to Jeff Sills for his news feed that we use to select our stories. Go to dronebook.org if you'd like to see other stories that Greg posts there. And one other thing as well, you can put stories in there as well. Our first story today, we've got a video that was shared yesterday on Ken Heron's show. This particular video is mixing with our military theme, and I thought I'd show it here as well. So Russian weapons manufacturer Kalashnikov, the company behind the world-famous AK-47 assault rifle, has developed a smart kamikaze drone. The drone is capable of remaining airborne for up to 30 minutes, during which time it can hit speeds that max out at 80 miles per hour, even worse. When it comes time to pull off an attack, it can target and accurately kamikaze the enemy troops with an explosive payload weighing up to 6.6 pounds. That is a nice little piece of hardware, and I thought since we've got a military theme today, I thought it was appropriate to have a look at that one.
Yeah, certainly something different. I think it's one of those things too. At the moment the drone is mentioned, I think that a lot of people are going to go, oh no, look at what drones are doing technology. The reality is we've had that kind of technology for quite a while, and it's nothing hugely new, but I mean, it's one of those things. You're going to get that technology in the military for weapons because drones have some very interesting uses, and it's not surprising to see that kind of technology being developed in those types of companies. Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's an aircraft.
Yep.
Okay, so moving on from that one, our next story. With the intention to carry ammunition, food and other necessities for the armed forces, POAir jets have developed a drone which can carry a load of up to 75 kilograms. They've also developed a drone which can be used to fight fires on high-rise buildings. Mr. Devathathan of POAir Jet said unmanned aerial vehicles would be beneficial in areas that have inaccessible terrain where it's difficult to supply ammunition and food. This drone, which runs on an aero-turbine fuel, can lift nearly 75 kilograms and run up to 2 hours non-stop. Their firefighting drone, called an urban hopper, is designed to assist with firefighting in high-rise buildings. Mr. Devathathan said that traffic is a major issue in cities, obviously, but during emergencies, even before firefighters can get to the spot, most of the damage can already be happening, particularly in buildings if they've got aluminium cladding. But these drones can lift as much as 200 litres in one go, can reach a fire immediately and help douse the blaze. Now, I'm not a firefighter, but 200 litres doesn't sound like much.
Yeah, I think in some of these areas, a lot of these companies are sort of stretching about the abilities of what some of these drones can do, and maybe in the future, but a lot of them are going on the wow factor of drones. And like you said, 200 liters of whatever their flame retardant or water is not going to do much on a big building fire unless you're there really, really early. But once again, this is another situation where there are manned options out there already, and all we're doing is just removing the manned option and turning into a drone. So I mean, anywhere where something is going to be more practical, easier, safer to do it than a manned operation, then you're going to see drones coming into that. And the only reason why it's taken this long is purely because the regulation stops a lot of this kind of thing, the red tape involved in being able to do it from legality and ensuring safety of others and so forth. But yeah, it's no surprise to see this kind of thing, and I'm sure it'll develop more over time.
It's just another aircraft. That's my thinking. But as we move on, the Feltham Business News reports that radar system with technology to stop drones from flying into no-fly zones is being operated by the RAF over the airfield in Heathrow to disrupt any illegal drone activity. Notice that word, disrupt. The system was flown in on Tuesday after Transport Secretary Chris Grayling said the military was preparing to deploy the equipment used in Gatwick at Heathrow should it prove to be necessary. Interesting word they used there, disrupt, and that's what they said in the report.
Yeah, well, they physically can't stop every type of drone, but the funny thing is, show me proof of all these drones that are actually flying to these airports, like the whole Gatwick thing, which was a complete farce. Wait for it. Let me just say this. We've got this special little thing on the screen now, Gatwick. Speaking of Gatwick, the Times of London has reported that police believe that the Gatwick incident may have been carried out by a disgruntled or former airport employee. Wow. Officers have collected 130 witness statements and done 1,100 door-to-door inquiries, pulling in other police forces to help, the newspaper said. And the witness statements suggested that the drone was operated by someone who knew the airport layout very well, with a potential attacker hiding the drone behind buildings where it couldn't be taken down with anti-drone equipment. The operator also knew to fly past air traffic control where a ban on mobile phones would prevent people from filming it. The drone pilot knew the blind spots where it couldn't be hit, a government official told the newspaper. So someone had some excellent knowledge of Gatwick, and hypothetically it could have just been a disgruntled employee. Yeah, look, I'm still of the opinion that if it was a drone, show me proof. Until you show me proof, I'm going to be very skeptical that there was even a drone there. And there's so many areas there where it seems to me, this well could be true, but the airport, the authorities, the government seem to be coming up with all of these excuses. And from the moment it happened, the people involved in the industry that understand the limitations of these drones have all had their hands up in the air going, what is happening? None of this is making sense. Yeah. And it's interesting. I think Gatwick Airport was sold to a new owner like a week or 2 weeks after this event happened. Is that related? I don't know. But I take everything that I hear with a grain of salt, purely based on the hype of everything and the fear and the smear campaign that seems to be on drones. And if it was that person in there, it just goes to show how much of a farce all of this really is. And it's just sad that people are doing these knee-jerk reactions on these machines, which when the data proves are not dangerous, are not endangering people's lives and so forth. How
many people have been killed by a drone so far? Not one that I'm aware of, but let's move on. Speaking of drones and the negativity about drones, we move on to the continuation of our feature story from last time. And let me just press the right button over here. There we go. But before I start, let me just call out that this story has no connection or references to our Army guests and friends here today. It does mention the military somewhere else, but it's nothing to do with the Australian Army. Just wanted to call that out so we can still be friends later. Anyway, so the first part of the update looks at the elections in Nigeria. The presidential candidate of the Africa Action Congress has accused the Nigerian military of shooting down a drone used by members of his party to monitor elections. We've got an audio recording of an interview with local media. And the audio is not working.
He looks like a movie star, not a politician.
Yeah, he is. He is the presidential candidate, and unfortunately, it looks like we've had something go wrong with the audio there. So let's just let that skip across. Nothing we can do about it now. But long story short, they had the drone up there monitoring a polling station, looking for problems because there were reports of things like violence and intimidation of voters. So they had this drone and they put it up to try and detect and prevent that. And next thing you know, their local military over there shot it down. Definitely not what we want to see with drones, but it's an example of, the war on drones. Again, no offense to our military friends, but speaking of the war on drones, in the USA this week, a DJI Mavic 2 was being used to search for a lost dog. The operator is part of a volunteer pet finding group called Missing Angels Long Island. One Long Island resident got out his shotgun and shot the drone out of the sky, according to police. The pilot of the drone asked the resident if he shot the drone down, and he replied, "Yeah, you can't fly over my house." The FAA recently confirmed that it is a federal offence to shoot down drones, punishable by up to 20 years in jail. This is absolutely insane.
Well, it's a standard thing when it comes to aviation. You cannot take over control of an aircraft from the pilot in command, and that includes drones in that situation, because the pilot in command is responsible for the safe operation of the aircraft. And if you shoot it down, take over control, so forth, then you're now assuming control, and now the responsibilities lie with you. I've spent a number of years living over in America, and they have let's just call it an interesting gun culture. I've had experiences with drones and guns in a number of areas, both good and bad, in my stays over there. So it doesn't surprise me, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's quite a bit of that happening over in America. But as the FAA has stated, it is illegal to do that. No different to shooting someone's car because you don't like where their car is parked. You can't.
But the difference is, if you shoot a car, you get firearms offences and you get, civil damages for the actual damage to the car. The difference is shooting an aircraft. The actual law in Australia talks about interfering with the safety of an aircraft, and a safety incident is defined in the Act as anything which damages or destroys an aircraft. There are many more, but those are two things, and those things happen. But we'll come back to Australia. Now, this was in the US that we just talked about, but this next video was shot from a drone that was filming some questionably illegal hunting activities. The people on the ground apparently didn't like getting caught with their pants down with what they were doing. Like I said, it was hunting activity and it was questionably illegal. I don't want to get into the tactics about that one way or another. The drone guy, was he flying over property? I don't know. Was he flying beyond line of sight? I don't know. But what happens next is pretty crystal clear. Just waiting for it. There we go. Right, so that's drones been shot down. Now, if you watch what happens here, the gunman hit his target as it says on the screen. Despite the damage, they did retrieve the drone. They were able to land it safely. They were able to retrieve the footage. That's the good news. They made a call to police who did not attend.
Yeah.
This wasn't in Australia. At least that's one good thing.
Once again, you can discuss whether or not what the drone users were doing was legal or not, privacy of invasion, all that sort of stuff. And I don't know. I can't comment because I don't know the entire situation. But at the end of the story, a good part of the blame is on the hunters because they're not allowed to do that. And the fact that the authorities are not investigating that and dealing with that is always a problem. If both sides are at fault, then both sides need to be had the blame put on them and have things dealt with. But yeah, that's both sides, and there's clearly one side that's at fault, possibly both. We don't know, but that's what the police are there for. And I think the problem with a lot of this sort of stuff is, particularly within the authorities, as soon as the word drone is mentioned, then it's always got a negative connotation on it, and the drone pilot is at fault, and they're treated as guilty before they even get a chance to talk their side of the story. And I think that is a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on from that, now getting back to Australia, last week I reported that a LiDAR-equipped commercial survey drone, rumoured to be worth $500,000, was shot down in the Australian Capital Territory. For those that were not here last week, I'll give a brief recap. The drone was shot down on February 14th. It was doing power line inspections on behalf of Evo Energy, and you can see the power lines on that shot there. My sources indicate that a company called AA Plus owns the drone. No one else has found that out yet, but that's my belief and my knowledge so far. No one from AA Plus was available for comment. CASA said, "We are not investigating, but we will assist the police if requested." Now, since aviation legislation is federal, I thought, okay, I'll call the Australian Federal Police for comment. And they said, this is a matter for local ACT policing. So I called local ACT policing and they said, look, the investigation is ongoing. No one is in custody, however. They did confirm that as well. So then I thought, let's have a look at what's been happening from an aviation ATSB perspective. And the legislation states that damage or destruction of an aircraft is a safety issue. And the legislation says that's within the scope of the ATSB. So I called them and they said, this is not a safety issue. Now, maybe I'm missing something here. If someone points a laser at an aircraft, CASA or the ATSB or the police would be the first ones putting out press releases if they found someone. But of course, we all know that drones are bad, and someone taking pot shots at a drone doesn't suit that narrative.
Yeah, that's a real problem, and I've been dealing with a lot of this issue. I may get backlash from some of the officials out here, but I'll go on record saying that CASA does not care about hobbyist and small-time commercial users. They care about they care about covering their asses. They care about their friends. They care about the people that are paying them. I personally am sick to death of the, quite frankly, disgusting manner that CASA operates in the RPA area. I have personally been involved in missions, and there's a lot of safety investigation. And go out there and investigate it. You would do it for other people. Why do you not care about drones? This is getting really annoying and concerning, because if it's the other way around, if a drone is affecting someone else, another airspace user or a ground user, CASA will use all of their authority to track down that drone user and rake them over the coals. So why are we not being supported in our time of need? This
Absolutely.
is what I don't understand. Yeah.
And, you know, to be fair and impartial, they don't have someone in custody. Maybe it's too hard to pick which of the 4 properties on that particular street, and there's only 4. Maybe it's too hard to pick which one the shooter came from when it was shot down. Maybe it's too hard to work out where the drone was. I don't know. But let's look at another example. Let's assume that, you know, there's a good reason for that. I've got another one over here. This one was in Burrells Creek. A man has been charged with multiple offences after allegedly shooting a drone in Burrells Creek on the mid-north coast. The drone in question was doing commercial real estate photography work when it was shot down. Police subsequently attended the home of the alleged shooter and found firearms and other drugs. He was arrested and held in custody on those firearms and drug-related charges. with someone in custody, I thought, this is going to be an easy one to go and get some action. So I contacted the NTSB to see if the event was known to them and if they would enforce the legal requirement to report safety issues to the ATSB. They replied that the incident was not reported to them, nor is the ATSB investigating it. They said the ATSB is not a regulator and not a law enforcement agency. They further stated that breaches of the Civil Aviation Act would be a matter for CASA. So I called CASA for comment about the failure of the incident to be reported, and they advised the failure to report the ATSB is a matter for the ATSB. This is not our legislation. So we got a little bit of this happening there. If the police refer the matter to us, they said we will look at it. So, Colonel Schultz, was it Schultz or whatever? I see nothing or whatever it was. It's laughable, them both pointing the finger at each other. But what I did do, I contacted New South Wales Police and they agreed to pass on the information to the police prosecutor relating to those aviation offences. This is only current, so I don't have a response yet if they'll be adding those charges to the existing ones. But as I said, the man is in custody. Chad? Thoughts?
Yeah, look, they're certainly right in some senses. Like when it comes to charging the person, that's certainly a matter for the police and so forth. But I think I have no expectation that they have to find someone, that they have to pin this on someone or anything like that. But it's a safety incident / accident that has gone on, and it's something serious. Regardless of whether there's a person in the aircraft, it's a serious thing which they need to investigate. They need to document for further data because they're really good at documenting this kind of data for other areas where drones are causing issues to other users. So how about a little bit on the side? We are airspace users as well. How about you back us up and do the work and create this data and this document history so that we can show all the things where we're being treated wrong or where we're doing the right thing and so forth. This is why I say it frustrates me of all of my experiences that CASA really does not care about the basic end user of a drone. They just don't care. They're more interested in lining their pockets and looking after their friends, and it's really frustrating.
Yeah. Anyway, look, that's all we've got time for the news today. And just before we move on, I've noticed the internet's dropped out a couple of times. We will be re-uploading a copy of today's show after we finish today. So if you want to get a look at that, we'll upload it a little bit later. And now it's time for our guest. But before we see him, we've got a quick little video clip. Let's just play that now. And the audio that we are hoping to hear isn't coming out at the moment. Sorry about that. There was some audio with this clip as well. This is an introduction to some of the activities happening at the moment down at the Avalon Airshow. This particular clip was put out by the Air Force. I didn't have an Army clip to play, so maybe there's a little bit of rivalry we can chat about in a couple of moments. But Air Force at the Edge at the Australian International Airshow at Avalon. So we're going to bring in our guest, and before we do anything, I'll get my producer to make his microphone go live on layer E because we need to hear him as well. There we go.
There we go.
Hello, Keiren. How are you?
Hello, Greg, and g'day, Chad. You're a surprise to see.
How you doing, my friend? A familiar face. I haven't seen him for a while. I've actually had quite a bit to do in the past with the Army and so forth, with their racing and being up at the Enoggera barracks and also down in Canberra and that sort of stuff. So it's good to see you guys still kicking along and pushing this very cool thing that you guys are doing. You're doing some really good work.
We're really proud of it, yeah.
Yeah. So let's just get started. We've got an audience that's not just in Australia. So the introduction, first of all, Lieutenant Colonel Keiren Joyce, you're the head of the Australian Army drone racing team. Why do we need drones in the Army?
Well, we need drones in the Army, number one, to help remove soldiers from danger.
Okay.
By putting a drone forward of our combat forces to have the first look at something, to gain intelligence, to do reconnaissance,
Yeah.
helps inform our decision makers and makes us do our missions better.
Okay.
And we don't have to send a soldier to do that. That's what it's all about. It's all about embracing robotics and autonomous systems.
So keeping our soldiers safe. Okay. And how does the linkage of the drone racing team feed into what you're doing from an armed services perspective? Do the two complement each other?
They do complement each other. It's not as direct as you might think. You know, drones in a tactical environment are very automated. Nose is fully support our soldiers. Our soldiers both at work and after hours. It's all about helping them maintain their life balance. So, you know, just like we support our soldiers playing rugby or touch footy or whatever other civilian interests they take, soldiers that drone race supporting in the technical skills of the workforce of the 21st century, both in Army and in the civil.
There's the electronic skills of it. There's there is the mechanical side, and I think people that get into something like this, they learn so much, and they take away from a lot more from there. And I would be guessing that the soldiers that are involved in that themselves are actually taking a lot more away, which might be able to help you guys in the future with the extra skills that they gain themselves.
They are, and we're interested in anything that enhances teamwork, right?
Yeah.
You know, soldiering is about teamwork. There is nothing quite as vibrant as being in the pit lane at a major competition and somebody smacks in and all of a sudden they need a repair, they don't have the part. And, you know, I've seen it many, many times now. They just raise their voice and call up, who's got an XYZ transmitter? Mine's busted, I can't keep going. And you know what? All of the competition, if somebody's got an extra transmitter in their kit, they give it up, right? Yeah. That kind of collaboration is quite wonderful to work within, and it's something that we look to foster.
It's humbling to see that kind of matesmanship for someone who could potentially beat you and take the crown at the end of the day.
That's right.
It's good to see. It's good to see.
Yeah. Just briefly, the video that we were playing a few moments ago, that was posted on the Facebook page for your team as the best qualifying round. Any comments about what's been happening in the competitions there?
Yeah, so at Avalon, we have run a drone arena. You can see it behind me here. It is a 2-post giant circus tent. And I've got to tell you, it's amazing. It has enabled our teams to have a battle over the last 4 days. Those teams are the Australian Army, the Air Force, the New Zealand Defence Force, Navy. We've had a couple of and we've had a great 4 days worth of qualifying, and then it all came down to the battle yesterday afternoon. I'm happy to say that Army beat Air Force, and
I was going to ask that question.
Yeah, and Australia beat New Zealand. So they are great outcomes. I'm very happy with the uniform that I wear, and it was really great to put on that kind of spectacle for the crowds that moved through here at the Avalon Airshow.
Okay.
So, I was going to ask, when the Air Force was flying, did they possibly get the channels that had a little bit more static than the Army guys? I mean, like,
any jamming devices involved?
Yeah, all the Air Force guys kept on having fail-safes. We don't know what was going on.
That's a really great segue, though. So to talk about our collaboration. So our race director was Rhett Mooney, the president of the Melbourne Eastside FPV Club. So he ran the event, so there was no bias. And our race caller is Tim Cross, the president of the National Association. So we had an independent view.
I know Rhett personally, and I'm pretty sure he's an Army guy. So just putting that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Keiren, I've got one last question for you. We've seen that famous poster in America, "The Army Needs You." Are we going to see you dressed up one day in the uniform and holding a quad out in front? "The Army Needs You"?
I actually don't think we need to do that. Look, we don't need to be very overt, to be honest. Drone racing is a natural fit for engaging with the youth of today. They're all watching it on YouTube. Many of them are partaking in it in local clubs. Many of them are competing at international level. You know, Tom, Ben, and Rudy just came back from China from the World Championships. It's amazing.
Just briefly, really your picture's locked up there. I don't know if you've accidentally clicked out of the app, but you've got a great poster look at the moment. There we go. He's back.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, thank you very much for being with us today. And it's great to see, as Chad said, the support both between the different armed services and even civilians involved in drone racing together with your team. And if you could stick around in the chat or something like that, that'd be awesome for a couple of minutes. That'd be absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, we will. It's been our pleasure. Thanks for working with us. Drone Racing Association, Chad. Thanks, Greg, for getting behind us as well.
Absolutely. Thanks again. So we go from that absolutely wonderful piece of interview there to something FPV related as well, something that you will be aware of, Chad. We've got Strepto as
good old Strepto.
Yeah, we've got him featured today. Let's play the clip.
He's responsible for getting me into FPV.
Yeah. Again, the audio is not working at the moment. So, Chad, I'm going to get you to chat a little bit from the run sheet that you've got in front of you about the clip. The notes from Mark are there. And while you're chatting about that, I'm going to go and see if I can fix the audio. So I'll see you in a couple of seconds.
Will do. So it's basically just a quick evening fly around lovely tall karri trees at Big Brook Dam near Pemberton, Western Australia. This was a single flight, one pack only, completely fresh location. So yeah, Mark recently did a trip over. I'm a little bit surprised that he hasn't crashed. He's good at crashing when it comes into into trees and stuff. I've nicknamed him Captain Average, who was his nickname the entire time. And there we go. Music.
Got the audio back. My teens at Dick Smith Electronics at York Street in Sydney. And, his electronic love has been there all his life and certainly transferred onto his...
Yeah, he's... and he took me for a ride through Mark's.
The video will be re-uploaded later. We've got some buffering happening again. We actually had a full internet outage in our suburb again earlier this week on Friday.
Thursday and Friday. NBN.
I don't have NBN yet. I'm still on pre-N. Yeah. Some beautiful flying here. And again, Greg Hilton, he is our editor who puts this together every week. Thank you very much to Greg. He also does Explore Australia. We're just waiting. There's a little comment from Mark at the end that Greg told me is in there. I haven't yet seen the end, so let's... Nice. Yeah, Strepto's a good guy, and it was good to have his footage up here today. He said that this was a quick flight around karri trees at Big Brook Dam near Pemberton. I don't know if you got that info out while I was...
Yep, his trip over to Western Australia recently.
Yeah. And a lot of information. By the way, if people want to find out more about his gear and his equipment, you can go to his page. There's a link in the description. So encourage you to go and have a look at that. Moving on from that, it's time for opening the mailbag. So this week we've got a couple of mail messages in from a guy called Todd Fox. The very first one, we're not going to have a look at the video today, but I will say that he's been traveling with his wife during February in New Zealand and Australia. He says it's a beautiful country. And look, we're going to play that next week. It's a blue lake located in Mount Gambier. So it's a longer video. We're running a little bit over time today, so we might skip that for now. By the way, I don't know if Keiren's still in the background, if Lieutenant Colonel is still there. Are there any questions for him? I don't know if he can hear us or not. It's just...
I'm seeing he's still transmitting stuff on there, but I don't know if he's actually active.
Yeah, I think he might have already dropped off the audio, so he can't hear us.
We do have one interesting question in the chat section, which is an interesting one, which I can read out.
Yeah.
This is from Pete de Mester. Sorry, Peter, your last name is too complicated for me. Apologies if I totally destroyed that. He said, question for discussion. Where is it legal to fly in Australia to fly drones via FPV? Do you need to join the AMAS and fly only at their sites according to their rules?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have the legislation in front of me, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But from memory, the only way that you can fly FPV legally, according to CASA, is being a member of the MAAA. I'm not sure if you can do it via AMAS or not. You may be able to.
I think you can. They actually they split it into two, so both organisations are now legal. And the only other thing you need to do is to be compliant with their rules, and their rules state where you can fly and under what conditions.
Yes, and there's sort of some conjecture there, but essentially, if people wanted to be annoying, it's kind of like only like MAAA associated fields and so forth. And if you look in the way that I've read it in the past, and I haven't read it recently, unless it's changed, is basically MAAA fields is about one of the, or your own private property is about the only place that they will sort of accept when it comes down to the letter of the way they write it, the way that I've written it. So it's another one of those grey areas. Unfortunately, the way that I read it, at least, is you are limited. You have to be an MAAA member, and you have to be flying at MAAA fields or your own property. Do you have anything to add to that?
The specific rules that I've said is you have to be complying with MAAA rules. Yeah. So if the MAAA rules say you can fly at the park down the road, then you can fly at the park down the road.
Yeah, and the way that I've read the rules, it doesn't sound like that, which sort of flies in the face of what everyone is doing. But to me, it goes to show a lot of when you've got these silly rules that don't really make any sense, and the likelihood of getting caught is so low, no one follows them, and it kind of makes the rules a complete waste of time, because literally 90% of the FPV pilots in Australia are not following those rules. But yeah, it's an annoying sort of another grey area. It's unfortunate that when you fly in the drone sector, you are basically faced with a wall of grey areas or down to interpretation type rules, which makes things quite hard.
Yeah, it does indeed. Look, thank you for that question. If there's any others, Chad, I'll let you keep monitoring. And also thank you very much to Lloyd Mendenhall, Lloyd the Phantom Grump, as I call him. He's currently the person putting the titles up on the screen. For those who don't know him, Lloyd the Grumpy Vlogger is his full YouTube name. So he's the one throwing in those interesting comments on the screen. But just before we move off the mailbag, so we do have a second clip from the same gentleman, from Todd Fox. This second clip is a shorter one, a short clip of a sunrise at Surfers Paradise, such a beautiful place. Let's just play that one quickly. Gotta love along the coast early in the morning or in the afternoon. Yeah. Absolutely beautiful footage, and this is from a non-Australian pilot, and he's done a great job with the audio there, mixing in some kind of ethereal music with a little bit of wave lapping. Obviously, drones don't get to record that when they're in the sky, contrary to popular belief. But some nice footage, and we'll feature the other one from Todd next week in the viewer video section of the show. But at this time, it is time to go off to meet the Wizard of Oz. So explore Australia. Now, this week is interesting. By the way, thanks to Greg Hilton, as always, for compiling this segment. And before we start, comment from Greg was slim pickings out there this week. He gets new videos every week. This is not old stuff that we keep rehashing. These are new content being created every week. But he says there's slim pickings this week, but there was one epic clip that went for 11 minutes. He's edited that down. So he said it was difficult to pare it down because it was just so good. He almost went with that one clip alone. So let's play this week's Explore Australia. This first one is from Danosaurus Vids. That's the name of the channel. All of the channels for all of the content we've got today, the links are in the description. Please do check them out. Subscribe to them if you think they've got interesting content. This first one was footage of the sunrise over Hinchinbrook Island off the beach at Cardwell in Queensland, Australia. This was shot in last year in September, but he's only recently edited that and put that together. Oh, that was a cockatoo in your house, I assume?
A cockatoo outside of my house.
Okay. And our second clip today, this one is from the Nomad Logs, is the name of the channel, in Tasmania. A World Heritage Wilderness, a snapshot of their trip to Tasmania, Australia.
That's a gorgeous location.
It is, absolutely. And I'm getting thumbs up from my producer, also known as my wife. She wants to go there now. For some tips on where to go and what to do in Tasmania, they say please do check out our blog post, or to keep up with their adventures, follow them on Instagram. On Instagram, they're called The Nomad Logs. So please do go and check them out. And this third clip is the long one that we spoke of before. And, Greg was really impressed with this. It's by Long Walk Films Australia. This is drone and time-lapse filmed across Australia. And Greg Hilton says about it, this clip is an absolute gem. It's full of contrasts between the desert and the ocean, with some amazing time-lapse photography as well, and expertly edited. It was well worth a visit to Long Walk Films to check out the other great clips there. Now, I've said before, Greg Hilton, he's a former cameraman from the ABC. He's got a really, really good eye at having a look at the editing and so forth. And to hear from him, hey, I didn't need to do anything to this. It was already absolutely wonderful. So some great footage there.
I love a good time lapse.
While that's playing out, I'm just going to go into the chat room and see if there's any comments or questions that people might have that we can answer before we finish the show. But this clip just speaks for itself. Absolutely beautiful.
Gorgeous. Yeah, if you've got any particular questions, chuck them up on the chat group, guys.
By the way, everyone, Discord, if you want to join that, I usually hang out in the Discord audio chat room for a little while after the show. You're more than welcome to go and join the Discord server. So I'll see you guys there after the show for a after party. Well, we can call it that anyway.
Nerd version of an after party.
Yeah. So Phantom Hodge drones, where are the roos? Not there.
Not in that video.
Comment from Peter, no more questions from him, but have to say this show just keeps on getting better and wouldn't miss it. So thank you. Appreciate the comment and appreciate you here. You know what I'm going to ask of everyone who's a regular? Go and tell someone you watch this show. Contrary to popular belief, it doesn't just come together. It actually takes a lot of time to put all of this together. So, you know, I want to grow. I want to make it interesting and have some more people see what it is that we're doing. What was the caravan for? For sleeping in? That was a question. I just thought I'd ask. Maybe it's just to sleep in. Jim has some roux stew if you're hungry. Here's a question for our audience. What's the most interesting and unusual food that you've eaten? I know I've had an ostrich egg omelette. Can anyone beat that?
Snake.
You've eaten snake? My wife said balot,
Yeah.
which is a
Snake.
Filipino delicacy.
Deep fried toad.
Deep fried toad.
You tend to eat a lot of really strange stuff in China.
Yeah. My wife was talking about balot. This is eating an egg where the chicken is partially developed inside. It's a Philippine delicacy.
The one that I couldn't eat was called blood of lamb, where it was a stew and they had coagulated blood about 3 inches thick on the top, like gelatin. Couldn't do that.
Mike Sarni says squid, moray eel. We've got another eel. Thanks, Don, for your comment. Great work, Greg and wife. Thank you. By the way, I do have to say that thank you to my absolute loving wife. And I'm sitting here looking to my left. She's sitting in front of the console doing all of the vision mixing and does a great job at it. Mike Sarni had shark steak on the Moshulu in Philadelphia. I don't know. Yeah, okay. Alligator whale in Mandulo. The shark steak was very expensive and not good. Peter says, would like to try roasted insects like in Africa. By the way, speaking of interesting animals and whatnot, when we were in Africa and we had that ostrich egg a long time ago, my father was with us at the time. I was young, and ostrich racing. People getting on the backs of ostrich and racing around. This was at a place called Utzhorn, and it was so funny. He lost his footing on the ostrich and fell over, and you could just see him landing on the ground with the ostrich head sticking out between his legs. I think we'll just leave that alone there, but it was a great, I've got it on video somewhere. I'll have to dig that out. Old guy in a drone says gator tail is great. Lloyd is talking about cow's stomach. Okay.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to have that in China. I couldn't do it. Looked disgusting.
Yeah. Look, that was a great clip. And I do encourage everyone, go check out Long Walk Films. The links to all of the channels and all of the sources that we use every week are in the description. It's been a good show. Any last minute questions, we'll eat them right now while we put up a few little community service announcements. First one, as always, if you've got a video that you want to share with us, There's an email address where you can send it. Don't send the actual file, just send a link to it. And, you know, we do like to read out the mailbag. You don't have to send a video. Send in some comments or some thoughts. If you want to follow us on social media, that's where you can do that. If you've got anything physical that you want to send to us, we've got a postal address over there. And, you know, last week it was something unusual that we received in the mail. Some Australian pre-decimal currency being sent from a guy in Texas. How unusual is that? It's not. It doesn't have to be anything big or, you know, anything special, but it's nice to just get something in the mail. So thank you very much to him for sending that. One other quick announcement is Drone Camp. This is something happening in Australia in October of this year. This is for people who are school age who want to learn to fly drones. It's being put on by John Morrison, myself, and a bunch of other people. And you'll get a free tello with that as part of your registration fee, dronecamp.info. Go and check it out. Have you heard about that one, Chad?
Yes, I have heard about that on the grapevine.
Yeah. So all of that good information, please do check that out. Have a look at the comments. It's been good. After the show, into Discord. And also after the show, please do leave a comment on the video after the stream has ended. It really helps us out. So thanks for watching. Anything last from you, Chad? Any comments or questions before we go?
No huge questions. I will answer. Ben asked a question. He said, "Hi, Chad, you still involved in Rotorite? Do you have your own YouTube channel?" Yeah, I've had my own YouTube channel since like 2007. Final Glide Oz is my YouTube channel. I haven't really uploaded much on that. Not involved in Rotorite anymore. I left Rotorite a bit over a year ago.
Okay.
But yeah, final thoughts from me. No, it's good to see people still uploading videos and doing different things and going to different locations. And it's good to see you reporting on some of the issues that probably the wider public don't hear about because the general media only likes to report on the scare campaign stuff. And it's nice to see the other side of things, the good the drones do, but also the failures of other airspace users and the regulators and so forth, showing that like we're not these bad people and we need protecting as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's not to say that there aren't legitimate fears and concerns in the non-drone community, but it's we need to make sure that the other side of the coin is heard as well. Speaking of coins, we had a question. What is pre-decimal currency? This is when we had pence and threepence and sixpence and shillings and all of those kind of things. And we had a competition last week where our guest had to tell us what was the currency that I had in my hand. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yep. For all our American users, that's when we went over to the metric system, just to prove to you that it is possible to do and it works really well.
Yeah, so we don't use Gaelic things like miles and pounds anymore. We use metric. Anyway, okay, that's all from us today, and it's been a good show. Thank you very much, Chad, for being our guest, and I'll see everyone next week. Please do go and check out Ready, Set, Drone. Their live stream commences in 4 minutes' time from now. So drop in there and say that you came from over here, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Okay, thanks, everyone. See you next time, Chad. Bye for now.
See you later.